What's going on? But what do you want? Sea, sun, or air conditioning? Hold on.
Wherever
Let me
we
just
can
close this.
see you will be good.
Look at that ocean. No, you don't want to see my ugly face. Look at that. Come on. What are you guys doing up in Joburg?
Well, you can't
What
go
are
onto
you
the
guys
beach
even
anyway,
doing?
so what's the point? I can just look at
But
it
at
on my
least I get to look at that.
screensaver. Mr. G, you still with us, dude? What's going on?
I'm alive. I survived COVID.
Good
Like
lordy.
literally.
Good
No, it was
lordy.
horrific, eh? For
So
all those out there, are we live? Are we recording?
we are recording. You may go, sir. Send your message to
Yeah.
the nation.
Take it seriously. Don't fuck around. This thing is brutal. Brutal, brutal, brutal. I kind of had a very, still young, relatively healthy. If anything happens to me, I'll be fine. Not the case. I had it pretty much as bad as you can get it, and it's a scary, scary, scary virus. Doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter how healthy you are or overweight or whatever or unhealthy, you can get it. What you need to do is make sure that you are fit now so that when your body gets into fight mode, it can do that. It can fight that.
And
Anyway,
correct me if I'm wrong. Some might call you somewhat of a germaphobe, so you're kind of always taking a few precautions.
yeah, I think, let me take my glass off of a lot of glare. Dude, I've always been quite a yeah. I've been slated by a lot of athletes because worried about germs and always washing my hands and being quite pedantic about it. Maybe it's a bit of OCD, but that's kind of like a bit of a thing of why I'm a bit of a perfectionist with the EFC, and fighters and what we require and want from them. But I don't think, how do I say this? I think obviously sanitizing is critical. And I think social distancing is the main thing. It's super spreaders, dude. It's like these people out there right now who can go into any restaurant with a temperature gun, and they don't have, they're asymptomatic. No one cares about people if they're asymptomatic, but they're literally shedding this virus. And a lot of people I know, a lot of friends, a lot of fit people, we've had people lose their lives, like family, friends, and family have lost their lives over this thing, and I think what I get really frustrated about, and I know that this is one for kind of the social trolls, is it's kind of like one of those things where only once you get it do you realize the severity of it, and the closest litmus we have or line we can draw in the sand to the symptoms are flu. It's nothing like flu. When they say aches and pains, you feel like you're in a car accident. Your head splitting open from migraines, you non-stop temperatures, and you literally fatigue. When I say fatigue, you can't even move. So I gave a first-hand account to some elderly ladies that I bumped into, and I said, "Listen, look after yourself. Don't mess around." And like I said, it doesn't. I'm young. I'm not going to give away my age, but I'm under 40. And
let's see how you
almost got
categorize
smoked.
young here.
The trolls almost had their day. They were probably would have been like a celebration party, eh? All the naysayers would have been like, "Woo!"
So the real
But I
question
lost
is,
a lot of kilos,
oh,
and I'm feeling fresh now, so I'm good now. Yo,
ready for the beach when it eventually opens. Tell me,
what's
so you fled to Cape Town. Did you have COVID before you went to Cape Town, or you got it in Cape Town?
I got it in Cape Town.
Those
I think I got this new variant strain, this machine strain that's kind of like super contagious, and like I don't know, symptoms seem to be what's kicking everyone's butt. The one that the UK is worried about, and why they're worried about people going over from South Africa.
Yeah,
which makes sense,
Stay at home, you bastards.
Yeah.
And anyways, Mr. G, we obviously have a million questions about who, when, where, what's going down. I was trying to pace back the steps of how everything unfolded, because you had a card together that was ready to go. Then it became a little bit uncertain, and then it was moving to the PI. There was still a card meant to happen in the PI, and then bam, we got shut down. So just talk us through
Yeah.
what was happening and what you guys were trying to do at that time.
Crikey, it's going to be almost a year since we last had a show. And that is like, for me, just as a, I've been gainfully unemployed for a year. I mean, this is a baby we built, and this is all I want to do. I mean, I've looked at the landscape of sport because we all got thrown in the same basket. Ourselves, PSL, rugby, we all got thrown in the same basket. And I think we tried really hard to weather the storm and just keep good content going out to our African, Pan-African broadcasters and ensure that there was a presence. And because we couldn't really do a live show, in many ways, I don't think a lot of the fans know this, but our broadcast grew exponentially because UFC was pumping. The African continent doesn't have an MMA show. They don't get UFC unless it's pirated or they buy it, or whatever the story is. So EFC was going over to all the terrestrial networks, and we were just hyper focusing on building the brand across Africa, which actually played in our favor, because hopefully in a time when COVID isn't our biggest thing and somebody gets we get some vaccines in, or we get a bit of respite here, EFC will be poised to be the biggest sports brand in Africa. It's like, Graeme's always trying to sell the idea of EFC. The reality is that's what's happened, and it's happened by kind of organically because people have been sitting at home. There hasn't been good live sport, and a lot of Africa is starved for this type of content. And then it just really spurred us on as a kind of brand to look at it and go, what are we doing? We're wasting our time. EFC worldwide, forget about it. It's EFC Africa. This is the bedrock. I'm getting inundated with emails now from UFC athletes that are African who want to come home and reignite, MMA in their country. And they should be doing that. We should be getting the Israel Adesanyas knocking on our door going, guys, how do we pump the shit out of this thing in Nigeria? How do we make MMA huge in Nigeria? It's the only way the UFC is ever going to take MMA seriously out of Africa. We've got 3 champions at the moment. I mean, there's probably more African champions in the UFC other than Americans right now. If you think about it, we're the guys, and we haven't even had anybody from EFC go across there and become a champion yet. So, like, this is kind of my appeal to the nation. Whoever watches this, get behind the brand, man. We fucking rock. We're one of the best sports properties to ever come out of Africa, and we just underfunded. Looking for our sponsors to get back online. Sports has been fucked up, if you excuse that we have been massacred. People don't know. I mean, you've got guys sitting at home who imagine being an Olympian. Imagine your whole life you trained for this time of your life. 2020 was your peak, and now you're sitting at home. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, because nobody saw what's happening. There's people losing their jobs all over the place. My heart goes out to people who've lost their jobs. But this is an entire industry that's been switched off, and it hasn't had backing. The South African government hasn't backed anybody. They tried to back PSL. Cool, that's their money ticket. Like all the ancillary sports, the guys, the off cuts, have been kind of, whatever. We'll see when we get around to it. So I don't know how things are going to pan out in terms of other sports. I know that all I can say is from MMA, we've always been a privately owned company. We're trying our hardest to get the funding to get back in the ring, or the hexagon as it is. I had a long chat with Cairo recently. We had a bit of a sit-down meeting and said, okay, we've put 12 years of our lives into building this business. Athletes want us back. Old hats and veterans like Gareth McClellan phoned the other day, like, we need you back. And guys in the investment world are saying, how can we get this going? We need to get the UFC back online. We need to get fighters active. Guys are hungry to fight. Guys are hungry to earn. So it just takes funding. It just takes funding. That's it. We've pumped a lot of money into this sport and this brand, and it's like at what point do you say enough is enough? You know, I'm sick of hearing about, oh, okay, we can't do this, we can't. What about we can? We should be aiming for an event in March. Sponsors should be coming on board. It's like a no-brainer. But everybody's comfortable not spending at the moment. The big sponsors are comfortable not spending. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. People's careers are dying. We're going to see a generation of sportsmen just like laid to waste. For what? You know, UFC should be investing in EFC. The big show should be turning around and going, Africa has the youngest population, the youngest working population. They should be turning around and going, those are the guys we should be targeting. 1.3 billion people, hungry and fucking beasts. You've seen these guys in action, man. You know, I mean, Francis Ngannou, who wants to mess around with that dude? He's an absolute like machine. So we possess the talent. We've got everything, all the trimmings of like just like igniting that fire. It just takes money, you know. So yeah. And as soon as and don't think we haven't.
Yeah, go
sorry, that.
No, go for it.
I was just saying, don't think we haven't been sitting, Kara and I, working our butts off trying to get sponsors in. But the landscape, it's like walking into a dystopian future. You know what I mean? It's like a Mad Max movie. People are not putting money into sport. They didn't already. You know, the landscape for sport in South Africa is so crap that people don't put money into any offshoot sports businesses. Everything was self-funded by EFC, you know, and came at working with sponsors and building relationships and giving them far more value than they were giving us financially. There was always a relationship because rugby, cricket, soccer sucked up all of the good sponsorships and nobody wanted to be an outlier and think differently. You know, the Americans are like that. They'll invest in sport, you know, because it's cool and it's new and UFC came a long way. Africa is, I'm talking about like 50 years behind that philosophy of investing in bespoke sports. But look at it now, look at the UFC. And the offering that EFC offers is identical. Our production is the same. Our athletes are poised to be phenomenal. I wanted to do a post the other day. I was telling Guy, I wanted to do a post of all the athletes that have gone to UFC and Bellator through EFC. It's all champs, man. Manon Farrow just got signed. You become a champion in EFC, you go across. We're kind of with a segue. We get guys there. So, you know, help us build it. Help us build it. We want to be the baddest ass MMA show on the continent. We're there. We just need to do shows. So the quicker we can fill the coffers, pay athletes, pay production, the quicker we can get going. And we're grafting hard, man, to make that happen. Yes, we're fucking working ourselves silly.
So what did you say is the status of the EFC right now? Because there was talks of shows coming back. Obviously, it's I mean, for everybody, especially sports, we've got this air of constant uncertainty. No one knows where we're going. Are we going to get another lockdown? How long will the lockdowns last? So it's from a business point of view, as you would know, it's quite difficult to plan. You can't say, okay, cool, let's do a show in March, even if we could right now. You just don't know what's going to happen. And then, you know, you're going to throw money at it. You're going to get athletes in. They're going to go into camps. They're going to spend money getting through their camps. And then a lockdown happens per se. With all of those kind of details, what would you say is the status of the EFC? When do you... let's go with that.
So from a show perspective, we can do a show tomorrow. Okay, like that's on the EFC side. Obviously, the athletes will need 6 to 8 weeks. So in terms of just the eventing side, the event itself, we'd host at the EFC Performance Institute. It's poised to do that. We shot the reality shows there. The hexagon's sitting there waiting to be used. It's probably quite dusty at the moment. We have cleaners in and out cleaning it, but get that thing sorted out and host closed door events. So we can host an event. Television wise, Super Sport, SABC, we have their full support. Pan Africa, we've grown our broadcast. It'll go out. Production wise, we get the guys in line. We have everything done in-house anyway, production wise for us. So all the editing and the directing is done through one of our partners. Silas. So they would be able to do that. And the athletes, obviously, that's just putting a fight card together and giving guys some time to train. There is nothing missing except we went. I think it's such a hard thing for fans to digest because they don't want to know the pedantics. They want cool shows like that UFC put out called Kick-Ass, where, Dana, you're the man for doing this. That's awesome. When you've got $6 trillion to play with, fuck, well, I'll buy an island for sure, no problem. But everything takes money. And when you take away the finances of a business and say, hey, and the government goes, hey guys, you can't earn money. To reignite those fires isn't like trying to start a small little fire. It's like starting a fucking bonfire. You need money to come in because it hasn't been coming in for like 10 months. So, we're sitting there going, okay, guys, to start it just needs cash injection, and that's it. It just needs to get going. The ball needs to get going, and it is such a, I'm not standing here trying to appeal to the fans to start putting hands in their pockets, but I do look at EFC as one of the most phenomenal brands in Africa, and it's always been just teetering on the thing of greatness. It's like right there, and what it's going to kick it off the ground is just get the funding, host a show. There's no problems. Like if somebody said to me, well, what's your biggest worry? I just said, put money in the bank, give it to the athletes, pay the thing. We won't profit. We just want to break even so that we can have a fucking show and get our brand going again. That's it. That is the end goal right now. So we're trying to make that happen because even big sponsors that we had before that were filling that hole, they had been absolutely obliterated, and their businesses have been, they're looking at us going, okay, cool, we love you guys, we want to put money into you guys, but the reality is I've had to lay off people, so how can I justify advertising at that rate? That's the problem. So EFC changed its entire business model to facilitate advertising, TV advertising, because we've got more eyeballs than any other sports property in Africa. So that's what the objective is. It's just a different game for us. We've never played this game. So we're getting into a new space, a new business space. And once we get that model right and we can start putting money in the business again, we're going to have an event. I said to Cairo, can we put a peg in the ground for March? He said, do it. But the reality is we need to make it happen by then. So I'm keen. So if I know I've done the bush answer to this as usual, the waffle. But the reality is, if I can say we want to do an event, and the state of the business is we're focused on doing an event. We can't let 12 years dissipate, and we want to do it in March. And the fighters that want to come on board are fucking awesome. We've got, I don't know if he'd be upset me talking about it, but I've been talking to Chad Honeycomb. I'm hoping that he will get on a card. I think that, he'd be awesome to get on there and smash away at for a title, like a middleweight title. I'd love to get Martin started back in the mix. There's so many guys that are out there that want to fight. Conrad Seavy's been pulling me nonstop. The guys are so poised to fight. So I don't think putting a fight card is actually, I've got the easiest job, but my job is also selling EFC out to potential sponsors and making sure that the business gets funded. So it's kind of where we are right now.
You talk about fighters jumping in the queue. One of the conversations I've had quite a few times is try to find if you could have right now with whoever's available, be it signed or on the fringes, guys like Chad Honeycomb and Martin van Staden and whoever else is hanging around. If there's one fight that you could put together that you think you could build a card behind to say, we are back, we are the EFC, and this is the fight that's going to set the tone for us. Mm-hmm. What did you think of right now?
I don't think it'll be one fight because I think a lot of, if you look at I was going through our weight divisions the other day, a lot of athletes have gone over to Bellator and UFC. Our champions, I think we've got 3 champions, left that are still in the EFC. Like Iga Cabez is still here. Joe Cummins is still here. Timber Greenbone is pushing hard to get into the UFC, but technically still here. The ladies, I think Katrina's still around. So what I would try and do is I would try and do a lot of vacant titles. I'd try and do like Gideon Drotsky and Chad Honeycomb. I'd try and get in Elena Lunga and Joe Cummins. I'd try and get in, like, there's so many, and we could stack the hell out of that fight card. You know, Latunda Biko wants to have a go at Faiz Jacobs. I think there's a lot of cool fights we could do. It's just about turning it on and saying, "You're ready, guys, let's go." You know, like the sky's the limit with guys that want to come back, because they've tried. You know, travel's destroyed a lot of the industry, like not being able to travel. And I was even saying, one of the cool things is with Africa, we could do, because of our facility, we could literally take, if you couldn't do a show in your town, hypothetically, it was like it was prevented doing a show in France, like it was. We could take an entire French fight card, put them against South African athletes in the EFCPI, fly them over. You would think it was in Paris. You wouldn't know the difference. You know what I mean? Like, and flight it over in a French TV station. There's many ways to skin a cat. We could do a lot of cool studio shows. We could build this thing awesomely.
Fantastic. How optimistic are you that the cards are going to be really set in motion come March?
How? Like, isn't it percentage or?
Well,
dude,
percentage,
like
string size, meters,
I'm
kilometers.
I'm phoning friends of mine who are economists. I'm listening to like all the what's it, the doomsday sayers. I'm trying to get my fingers into anything. And like, I just want to know whether we're going to go into another harder lockdown, because that then changes the entire kind of projected whether we can do an event or not. Hospitals are full. There's a good possibility. News 24, the most reliable news network in the world, said that apparently the NEC met today and there's not going to be any hard lockdowns. You know, I think where you're looking for information, you'll find it. Yeah. And if we can just focus on the positive and just try, because let's be honest, I think further harder lockdowns, and look, I'm not taking, I had COVID, so I'm like all aboard for being as strict as possible. But there's also the other side of the coin. This country is completely bankrupt. And it's not that it was ever funny, but it's not a joke anymore. Financially, who can afford to not work? You know, it's like, you know, I don't know one person. So right now, we're all hoping that we can get things together, put a fight card on. So optimistic. I heard a cool thing about positivity and optimism. I'm optimistic. You know, I'm not positive. I'm not trying to convince myself that this is a good thing. It needs to happen. So I want it to happen. Whether it's going to happen, who the fuck knows? I mean, you know, comment could hear us tomorrow, but or they could come up with a vaccine. Discovery could turn around and go, let's stop pumping this thing out. I hear that 1 million vaccines have been secured by the government. Amazing. More. Bring it. Let's do it. So maybe things do an about turn and the world looks like a better place in a month from now. Fingers crossed. And then we're all smiling. So I want fans to get behind the business, because the business drives the sport right now. That's the way it is. And the business needs help. The business needs to pump. It needs to pay its fighters. It needs to host events. It needs to put fresh content on TV. And, you know, there's no problem asking for support and money. The world we live in right now is one where, you know, like what's the valuation on the Uber? You know, they don't own anything. They're a freaking app. They're worth $1 billion. Like, the UFC was broke once. They needed money. They didn't have COVID to deal with. We've been underfunded for a long time. because it's just four dudes putting in their own personal cash all the time. And now we're sitting going, guys, you know, it's not there anymore. You want to save this brand, get behind it. It needs to happen. So yeah, we're working our butt off to try and make that happen, you know.
Yeah, just to hammer on that point, you know, we've had this discussion a million times. Without the EFC, the landscape here looks very bleak. You know, it's a scary hole that nobody really wants to look into. Like, no one wants to think about it. You know, the sport dies in essence. It can come back, but for a period of time it dies, like we can see now.
Yep.
I mean, we've had a year. I know Alpha had one or two shows which were really good, but amateurs got nothing to work towards. It kind of dies, you know. Amateurs right now scratching their head saying, well, my chances are to go from amateur to overseas. What do I do without the EFC? So yeah, I agree with you.
And I actually wanted to do an Edge MMA, an amateur show. We launched the concept a while ago called Edge MMA, and I wanted to do it quite badly. And then I had I moved down to Cape Town, so I didn't have the kind of capacity to go and do it. But I look at the amateur landscape right now, and it's like anything. Sport is aspirational, you know. Everybody, you know, you look at there's a data chart on Instagram that shows all the greatest sportsmen, and you know, during the 70s and 80s, you know, it was all boxers, you know, and then there was the era of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson floored it for years, you know, highest earning, and then Tiger Woods came up, and he was earning nonstop, and then it went back to Mayweather, and then Tyson. It was this, up and down. Now it's the soccer players. The point I'm trying to make is that without the aspirations, without like the big guys, without watching Gareth McClellan, without watching Chad Honeycombs, without watching like Iga Cabeza and Kazimola Zulus and all those guys, there's no aspirational value for the amateurs, because they look at it and go, well, what's my next step? You know, they don't have options. And I was asked by a Congolese businessman that we're trying to get involved with the other day, like, what's our social responsibility and what are we doing to grow the sport? And I'm like, EFC is the sport. If we grow EFC, the sport grows across all borders. We're not sitting on our hands. We are out there trying to broker deals in territories that other sports are not. Congo, Angola, Nigeria, we are in Tanzania. We are the guys who have spearheaded that movement of getting the sport into those places. So, if anything, if you back the brand, the sport grows, because people are sitting in Nigeria watching our athletes, our Nigerian athletes, if we bring them over, our Congolese athletes like Champion Dolces on repeat in Congo all day through EFC, not UFC, even though he's signed to UFC. And that's the point: is if the groundswell happens when you are watching Elaine Lunga fighting Joe Cummins, and you are sitting and going, I'm fighting this weekend as an amateur, and one day I'm gonna kick that guy's ass. Brilliant. But we need to get going. That's the point. we need to make it happen. And I'm itching. I mean, obviously, like for me, you know, you talk about earlier, like my OCD with like this sport is my OCD. You know, I'm obsessed with it. People are like, oh yeah, I like fighting. I'm obsessed with it. I watch fighting all day. I'm always looking at a fight, and whether I'm watching UFC or PFL or whatever I'm watching something, and I'm looking at my baby in the corner who's hurting, who needs to get going again, and the awesome fighters that we've worked with and loved and like created a EFC family out of, and I just want them to get going and kick ass. You know.
100%.
We need to get the next Drickus in the mix, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the Cameron Simons of the world, bro.
Well, hopefully
I want to see those kids in action.
Hopefully this all gets figured out sometime soon, man. I know we are desperate.
It'll come with the positivity I'm speaking about now, but I'm putting it out to the universe.
We should organize one of those, like 9:59 p.m. on a Saturday. All MMA fans can go light a candle and send some MMA juju into the universe.
Do you know what I want?
Maybe
I'm not joking. I want Israel, because I spoke to Eugene Berman about sending a proposal to him pre-COVID, like long ago. And I kind of like left it, and I was like, oh, I didn't know, like, should I broach the subject with them? It's not the right time. The guy's got a fight coming up, leave it. But I was like, why are the African UFC stars not looking at EFC? I will give them shares in our business if they go and spearhead the business in their continent and get the ball rolling. This could be Africa's answer. The UFC don't want this continent. We've asked them for help. They don't want this continent. Okay, cool. If that's our responsibility, we take it. But we need help from the guys who want to invest so wholeheartedly in the business, in their people. Let's do it. We're here. Replace my face with the Nigerian dude going, I'm gonna fucking put on the best fight card in Nigeria. Absolutely. Because there's machines out there, man. There's machines. Like the Brazil, like the remember the spike in Brazilian athletes that came out? That is happening soon. And nobody's wiping the shit out of their eyes and going, where are they coming from? They're coming from Africa. All the badasses are coming from Africa. Wake up. But they just keep on segueing to Europe first, because that's the opportunity to get into the UFC for them. You know, along came EFC and the athletes started to come from here. So, you know, we get this thing going. It's going to be next level. Next level.
2021 next level.
Maybe I should just be like the guys on PFL who just like, you know, we're the next big thing to UFC. We're going to smash UFC. Just speak positive, dude. I don't know.
That's it.
More of a pragmatic guy.
Positive, and we're going to rub those money Buddhas. Hopefully it can send some sponsors.
There's lots of good sponsors out there, and we've got a lot of guys that we have dealt with, and we have good sponsors. It's support from the fans, support your athletes. It's support from businesses, support your athletes. Those dudes are putting themselves out there. Like I tuned saying Madiba on the phone the other day. There's a lot of good guys out there. There's a lot of good athletes that just need support. And it's like we're one deal away from making this bigger than it was before we left. It just needs to that division needs to cross the line, and I feel it. I feel like it's going to happen soon. You know, it's weird. The new year came, and it's just a date. Like to stop COVID, but it gives people a refresher. They reckon, like in soccer, if you take a break, you know, before you kick the ball in a penalty, instead of just kicking the ball, a lot of guys just throw the ball down and kick it. If you take a break or a breather, you're 70% more likely to score a goal. So it's like a reset. This could be the best thing for our business. I mean, our intention is not being, okay, we're going to go back to how we were. It's what is EFC 2.0 going to look like? What is that monster going to look like? That's the African giant. That's not, you know, hey, you know, cool UFC. Cool. We're the powerhouse of Africa. We produce the best talent in Africa, best Congolese athletes, best Nigerian athletes. Angola is on fire. We're sending our content everywhere. That is the vision. And I believe that it's going to happen now because, you know, we're in a corner, and that's isn't that when a dog is the most dangerous? When you corner it?
That's what they say.
We're in a corner. We've got to make a show happen and make this business happen for you guys, for everyone. I mean, we want it to happen. Anyway.
Fantastic.
Can't wait to see what the trolls say once we're off this podcast.
No, they're no trolls. They're going to be calm. They've missed you. They wanted to hear what's going on.
Have they all just died off? Have the world taken out the trolls?
Never. They've gotten worse. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Mr. G, thank you so much for your time, man. It's great to hear from you. Great to hear there's still a lot of work going on behind the scenes trying to get the show back on the road. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully it all goes well from here.
I'm not just sitting in my house drinking wine all day and staring at the TV. I promise.
Prove it.
No, I'm drinking wine right now, but that's kind of what you do when you move to Cape Town. You start drinking wine. You got to be one of those guys.
It's Thursday, so it's acceptable. As long as you didn't buy it from some bootlegger down in Camps Bay there or something. Eh?
No. They're very pedantic down here. The police actually graft like machines down here. You can't have an expired license. Brother, they are a machine down here. Actually, you're not used to it because who is used to that type of thing?
Nobody's used to it. Thank you, Mr. G. Have a great evening. We'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, brother. So, do you want me to sign off? Cheers, bye.
Sign off.
I'm alive, guys. EFC's going to pump this year. We're going to kill it.